12 o'clock p.m. and I will call to order the special meeting of the MISD Board of Trustees on today, November 26, 2019. Agenda item 1 is our public comment agenda item, and we have 4 persons who have signed up to speak to us. And as I mentioned, I apologize, but if you'll please come forward and address so we can all see you. In no particular order, the first speaker is Esme Juarez, and the topic is the bond. Ms. Juarez, welcome.
Do you think we'll wait just a second for John? You want to just wait?
Oh. Ms. Juarez, if I could ask you to please wait till Mr. Truschetti returns so he can hear your remarks as well. Thank you. No, thank you. I didn't realize he was going.
Oh, my apologies. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Davis.
All right. Ms. Juarez, welcome.
Thank you. The reason for me addressing you, the board, and thank you for having me here, it's because I am a concerned citizen. I have 5 kids, 2 of them graduated already from Midland High, and I was involved in the recount that just had. First of all, I want to say I left from there with the utmost respect with everyone involved. We were there from 7:30 on Friday till past 4 on Saturday, counting and everything. I understand there's a process that y'all follow, MISD. My concern is with the way it's being addressed. We know from that night, and at 4 in the morning, we're questioning the total ballots that were still missing. We were talking to Ms. Land, and I just feel like for the community's sake, you owe it to everyone to be transparent. We're trying to get there, and I know from previous posts that Brandon has said, you've been working with us, you've been communicating with us, and I appreciate that. But we cannot avoid the fact that there was votes that were missing, that are not accounted for. And I would think that until that gets resolved, we can't move forward as a community. You know, it's been said that that if we don't vote for the bond, that we're against our kids' security, and we don't love our kids and we don't love our teachers. I love our kids, and I love my kids and the students and the teachers, and I'm an involved parent. I am 3 PTAs. I help out the teachers, so I don't appreciate that comment, but I do want to let y'all know that I'm here to to ask you guys to hear the community, to represent your district, because I know I haven't been represented in my district. I haven't had any talk with my district representative were, being available to us. So with that being said, I know y'all are doing this for the best of the kids. We're doing it. We're not against a bond. We're not. We are for a better bond, one where we're included, all of us. Different types of people, not just a special group, but all of us, a community from every area, from the south, from the east, from the west, from the north. We need that to be done.
Ms. Juarez, because you're speaking on an item that's on the agenda, we actually can engage with you. So
Okay.
Let me first thank you very much for all the hard work. You were there till the bitter end, and thank you very much for putting the whole day and the long night, because I know you, like everyone else there, were there to do your best to accurately and fairly count each ballot, so thank you for that. Thank you also for all the work that you put in our schools, for our students and our teachers, and all the support you provide. With respect to your desire to hold off on canvassing or whatever, I've spoken to the director of the elections division today that says that's not an option available to us. I'll make that clear in my remarks that I'll say before we consider the action item, but it's not something that we're even allowed to do by law, to do anything other than canvass the votes today from the recount in which both sides were present. So hopefully I'll make that clear in my remarks, but thank you for what you said to us. All right, next is Jennifer Langford, topic canvassing. Ms. Langford, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you for letting me speak for just a moment. I also was a part of the recount last week. It was an interesting process. I learned a lot. It was neat to be involved in that aspect of our community, and I was, I would say, fortunate to be able to be a part of that and to be able to learn what I did. But I would say moving forward that there has already been a division in our community over this bond. I know that we've all felt it. I think that we would be mistaken to say that there hasn't been a division when the vote has been so close in all three counts and recounts. And so I would say moving forward that each of you consider how would your district want you to represent them at this time. Have you really spoken to your district to see if supporting this canvassing or looking for alternative answers to what's happening with the recount and the fact that we have 820 unaccounted for ballots? I don't know how anybody can feel comfortable moving forward knowing that we don't have 820 ballots accounted for. I would encourage each of you to consider that. I would encourage each of you to keep that in mind as we move forward. I did just hear your response, Mr. Davis, about how your options are limited and what you can do at this point, and I appreciate that. But I also ask you to consider the division that we've already felt and how moving forward with this, with the questions that have been asked and with the uncertainty, what that does to our community from here forward. Thank you.
Ms. Langford, thank you, and thank you again for all your work on recount night. I do agree that the district and the board members need to reach out moving forward to try and unite the community behind this bond issue and all the benefits it can provide. Look forward to the input that the community can provide on the design process. Hopefully that can help begin the healing process. But in terms of other options available to us, I hope to make clear that this canvassing is really the only thing by law that we're permitted to do, and I hope to clarify that for you. Next up, Matt Galindo, topic bond recount in East and South Midland. Mr. Galindo, welcome.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the time to speak to you all. Before speaking on the bond, I wanted to just quickly address this quote that was in the MRT, and it was made by Mr. Fuller, and it was in a town board meeting. I'm asking the question, why aren't they here? Mr. Fuller said, apathy is the most damaging scenario that exists in this particular community, speaking of the east side of Midland. You can talk, you can preach, you can argue, you can encourage whatever else. Bottom line is that parents are going to have to decide whether or not they want to get involved in their district. Mr. Fuller, I'd like to thank you for the years that you have put into our community. I thank you for representing us for the last 32 years. And I also want to thank you for challenging me, because that's why I'm here today. It's not so much that we're not concerned, because we are concerned. I think we have just given up. I think we haven't given up on our children. We'll never give up on our children. We'll never give up on our community. But we have given up on the school board. We have given up on the representatives. I reached out to Mr. Fuller. I've reached out to Mr. Marquez. I have yet to get a response. I've also reached out to Superintendent. If you go back into these meetings and you're able to go back and look either on YouTube and look up MISD, or go back onto the MISD website, look up, or hit school board, watch the meetings. Every time somebody comes up here, it seems like they always address this. We're reaching out, but we're not getting answers. We're reaching out, but nobody's giving us feedback. We're reaching out. We're trying our best to do the best we can for our children. And we're asking that you would help us. Help us help you is what I'm asking. Help us help you in being that community, in helping us be the best community that we can possibly be for East Midland and South Midland. Our children deserve better. We deserve better, and Midland is better than this. As far as the bond, it's just one of those things where it's really uncomfortable to think that 800 ballots are missing, yet we're still going to move forward with it. What if it was the opposite? What if we were against it? And my issue with it, and one of the things why I voted no for it, was I have elementary school students. My children are 9, 5, 3, and I have one coming in June. What about them? What about the list of schools, elementary schools that are failing? What about the ones that received an F as of August of 2019 and the 10 that have Ds? What about elementary school students? Yes, I understand, I'm all for planning for the future, but what about right now? What are we doing right now to help us, help our students succeed? I understand that we're pushing forward to get them to where, once they graduate, that they're going to be able to, go out and go to college and get a career and be ready for that. But what about those that are coming up into high school? What about East Midland and what about South Midland? What about all of Midland? And I encourage y'all to really focus and put your attention in this. So much energy has been put into this bond, yet I just feel like so much of the elementary schools and all of other parts of Midland have been neglected. And like I said, this goes out onto YouTube, this goes out onto the meetings, and just want to remind Midland that come November 20th, or November 2020, districts 1, 2, 4, and I believe 7 are going up for grabs. And that people would step up, and parents would step up. And I also want to take this time to introduce myself, because you'll be seeing a lot more of me. And I plan to be one of those who will represent the East and South Midland.
All right, Mr. Glenda, thank you very much. All right, our fourth and final speaker, Christine Foreman. Topic, recount process moving forward. Ms. Foreman, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity today. I just, as a representative who was there in the recount the other night, I just wanted to appreciate everyone from both sides and the neutral parties, as well as you, Mr. Davis, for operating with the utmost integrity and respect. I believe that that was the first step to the healing that Ms. Langford addressed. I do believe that it started in that room that night. I think it was a great opportunity for us to work together on something that we didn't necessarily agree on how to get there. We didn't agree on the bond, but we agreed on the process to make sure that every vote is counted and that the right results were the ultimate goal. And they still are the ultimate goal. So I would just say that as a representative, if we choose our future, we still want to see the right results come out from the election. And I believe now it's not MISD's responsibility to figure out whether those results were the right results. I don't believe it's the We Choose Our Future PAC or the Better Bond for Midland PAC responsible for finding the right results. I think the correct results fall on the county. And I appreciate you guys taking ownership of that and taking away some of the heat that I think our community is putting on MISD, because now we leave it to you to figure out what the correct results are. So I just wanted to make sure that, that we as a community see that there is healing taking place. And I look forward to restoring, faith in the elections process for future elections. And I think it's bigger than the bond. And that's our ultimate goal, is to make sure that in future elections that we can trust the elections process in our community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foreman. Thank you for all the long hours you spent as part of the recounting process as well. All right, we'll now take up agenda item number 2, discussion action item A, consider adoption of an order canvassing returns from recount conducted on November 22, 2019, and declaring results of bond election. Before taking it up, I'd like to read this statement, and it describes how we got here to this point today. On Monday, November 18, 2019, I received a petition requesting a recount and an accompanying deposit from the Special Purpose Political Committee formed to support the bond. We choose our future. Requesting a manual recount of votes cast in Midland ISD's Proposition A bond proposal. That same day, I submitted the petition and a copy of the cashier's check to the Elections Division of the Texas Secretary of State's office for their review. After completing that review, the Director of the Elections Division informed me the petition and the accompanying deposit met all the statutory requirements for a recount. Consequently, I approved the petition and notified We Choose Our Future and the specific purpose political committee formed to oppose the bond, Better Bond for Midland, of such approval. As president of MISD's Board of Trustees, the Texas Election Code provides that I was to serve as the recount supervisor. In that capacity, and after getting County Judge Terry Johnson's approval for the recount location, I ordered that the recount take place last Friday, beginning at 8 a.m. in the Commissioner's courtroom, located across the hall from the Elections Administrator's office at the Midland County Annex. I am grateful to Judge Johnson for making the necessary arrangements to permit the courtroom to be used for this important purpose. Among a recount supervisor's duties is to appoint a recount committee consisting of a chair and the members of the recounting teams who did manually count all the ballots. Being mindful of the closeness of the election and wanting to ensure confidence in the accuracy, fairness, and transparency in the recount, I asked Ruth Sloan to serve as the recount chairman. Ruth served as Midland County Elections Administrator for 10 years, from 2004 to 2014, and also worked in that office 10 years before assuming the top post. She is a person of unquestioned integrity and was widely recognized as an excellent elections administrator. As chairman of the recounting committee, Ruth oversaw each of the counting teams who were responsible for manually tallying the ballots. The remaining members of the recount committee consisted of 9 three-person counting teams. Each three-person counting team had 1 representative from the Special Action Committee formed to support the bond, We Choose Our Future, 1 representative from the Special Action Committee formed to oppose the bond, Better Bond for Midland, and 1 representative provided by Ruth, which consisted of persons who had either previously worked with her in the elections office or had served as an election worker in some prior capacity. Meanwhile, We Choose Our Future and Better Bond for Midland were each permitted to have at least 1 poll watcher for each of the counting teams to observe the recounting process and 1 at-large representative present to observe all the counting teams. All members of a counting team and their accompanying poll watchers were present when a ballot box from a voting location was unsealed and opened by that counting team, open for counting by that team. The ballots from each ballot box were first sorted by precinct, and then the team member provided by Ruth read each ballot aloud, while each side's counting team member tallied all the for and against votes in each precinct, as well as those who chose not to vote for or against the bond, known as undervotes. After tallying every 10 votes for or against, the counting team would pause to make sure each side agreed on the count before proceeding forward. And all of this was done while each side's poll watchers observed the entire process. In other words, each member of each counting team had to agree on the vote totals for each precinct from a ballot box before their counting task was completed for that ballot box. Then, when a ballot box was completely counted and ballots returned to the ballot box, all the counting team members who counted that ballot box and their accompanying poll watchers also observed the ballot box be resealed. It was a remarkable day and night of which all Midlanders can and should be proud. Both sides came together and worked together side by side, cordially and respectfully, with a common purpose in mind, to fairly and accurately manually count every ballot in every ballot box from every polling center. We did just that, and the results of that manual recount effort showed that the bond passed. I am very thankful and appreciative for all the persons who participated in this recount effort. It truly was a joint, cooperative effort by both sides to fairly and accurately count the ballots. By state law, the Texas Education Code provides that the results of a recount supersede and replace the prior results. After all, that is the purpose of having a recount. Consequently, the bond passed. Texas law also provides there is no recount of a recount, and that is how it should be. Both sides were present during this manual recount, and both sides agreed how every ballot should be counted. For all those reasons, the MISD School Board of Trustees will canvass the recount results today. I have been asked, how can the school board canvass the recount results today when questions remain about why there is more than an 800 vote difference between the number of votes reported to have been counted by the machines versus the number of votes manually counted with both sides present? Before answering that question, first let me say, I cannot speak to the problems that the Midland County Elections Office reportedly encountered with the voting machines on election night, Tuesday, November 5th, because I was not there, and neither was anyone else from MISD. And I cannot speak to the problems that the Elections Office reportedly encountered with the voting machines the following Tuesday, November 12th, when the machines counted the additional provisional ballots and any mail-in ballots received after Election Day, because I was not there, and neither was anyone else from MISD. What I can speak to you about, and what I have described for you today, is what occurred during the manual recount of the ballots, which took approximately 20 hours to complete this past Friday and early Saturday morning, because I was there, along with dedicated representatives from both sides every step of the way. I believe that everyone who participated in that recount process are confident that those ballots were fairly and accurately counted. So back to the question. How can the school board canvass the recount results today when questions remain about why there is more than an 800 vote difference between the number of votes reported to have been counted by the machines versus the number of votes manually counted with both sides present? I asked that very question to the director of the Elections Division of the Texas Secretary of State's office, and he informed me that we have no other choice. The petition for recount requested a manual recount of the ballots because of the reported problems with the machines. And because the recount petition asked for a manual recount of the ballots, the use of or access to the voting machines was not permitted. When the manual recount was completed, the recount chair, Ruth Sloan, prepared a recount report reporting the results of that joint recruiting effort. 11,411 votes for the bond, 11,400 votes against the bond. Again, the director of the Elections Division of the Texas Secretary of State's office informed me that by state law, those results are the only results that may ever be canvassed by the school board regarding the recount. Meanwhile, it is my understanding that Midland County has announced that it is undertaking a forensic examination of the voting discrepancy that arose from this election that its elections office conducted and for which it was solely responsible for conducting. The county's stated purpose is to find out what happened and assure the public it will not happen again. So again, you may ask, why not wait until that forensic investigation is completed before canvassing the votes? Again, Director Ingram informed me that by state law, this school board cannot wait the results of that investigation before canvassing the results of the recount election, because the results of the recount committee cannot, by law, be affected by the results of any such investigation. Instead, we are only permitted to canvass the results of the manual recount conducted with both sides present. Furthermore, also by state law, the results of that recount must be canvassed as soon as reasonably practicable. Because the recount was completed early Saturday morning, and because the Open Meetings Act requires that all school board meetings be posted for 3 days in advance of the meeting, today's meeting was scheduled today, which complies with our legal obligation to canvass the results of a recount as soon as practicable. Now, before considering, I'd like to call upon the county for a statement regarding our canvas action item today.
Can everybody see me from here?
You're fine.
Russell Long, County Attorney, welcome.
Thank you. The county judge, Deborah, and myself, and I think all other county officials have been receiving a lot of calls, a lot of questions. And people have questions about the responsibilities of the different parties and about what we're doing and what we can do. So the county judge, who unfortunately cannot be here, asked me to make a statement on his behalf. The Midland County Elections Office routinely conducts elections for all local governmental entities within Midland County. These elections are conducted pursuant to contracts entered into between the Elections Office and the other entity. The recent MISD bond election was also conducted by the Midland County Elections Office pursuant to a contract with MISD. Midland County is solely responsible for the conduct of the election. Any problems that occurred are our responsibility, not the responsibility of MISD. As we have previously stated, we do not yet know why there is a discrepancy in the vote totals, but we're working hard to find the answer. And we will find the answer, and we will let the public know what we found. And we will not let this happen again. But, and this is very important, regardless of what we learn, it does not and legally cannot affect the results of the bond election that's being canvassed today by MISD. We have researched this. We've also spoken with the Secretary of State's office to confirm our research. Under Texas law, as Mr. Davis has said, the results of the recount conducted last weekend are final and cannot be changed. Our search for the answer is vital. We have to know what happened for the integrity of future elections and the election that just happened, and for the public's confidence in all of our elections. But whatever we find out cannot legally delay the canvass and certification of the recount by MISD. I am happy to receive calls and emails as I have from citizens to discuss this, and we will be extremely open and transparent about what we find. That is our responsibility. We have to do that. But again, that cannot change what's happening today.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. All right, and I'll take up agenda item 2A, consider adoption of an order canvassing returns from recount conducted 11/22/2019 and declaring the results of the bond election. You have before you a copy of the recount committee chair's report reporting the results of the manual recount with 11,411 votes for, 11,400 votes against.
Mr. Davis, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Either you or Mr. Mull, just so I am understanding. So we canvassed the election after Election Day, and at that time we were lost by 25 or whatever the number was. And then the recount, we're up by 11. Am I hearing both of y'all correct in stating that even if we find these 800 and some odd votes, whatever that scenario is, it will not change the outcome of the election?
That's correct. And let me also quickly say that while it's been referred to as 800 something missing votes, that's not yet been determined that we're missing any votes.
Forgive my, whatever the choice is for those.
I use the word discrepancy because there is admittedly a
Yes,
discrepancy,
yes,
but
the
to say that the
discrepancy
discrepancy is caused by missing votes is factually incorrect because we just don't know. at
So
this point.
there's no scenario where we come back as this board a third time and canvass again based upon whatever outcomes come from the county's forensic analysis of what happened?
It's my understanding that this will be the final canvass of this election. However, there are election contest avenues available that could contest the results of the election. But this will be the final canvass, as I understand it, of the results of this election as determined by the manual recount conducted by the recount
Is
committee.
that how you understand, Mr. Mull?
Completely.
I move that we accept the results of the recount.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy and a second by Mr. Marquez.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Go ahead. Okay, so for Mrs. Land or Rick, since y'all were both there, are all the boxes accounted for that are at polling locations?
Yes, sir, they are.
And as Mr. Davis said in his comments, everybody was present when these seals were broken on these boxes, so we know these were the ballots that were cast.
Yes, sir.
And so I heard a discrepancy, and I think Mr. Davis just pointed out, the two ladies that spoke said ballots are missing. Mr. Davis said votes or discrepancy. Are there any ballots missing?
We have not yet made that determination. All the seals were still intact when we presented them to the counting teams. They were the seals that they were brought in with from the polling locations. We have no reason to think that those were tampered with in any way. They never left our secured card and key access only storage area in our elections office. So we don't know why the discrepancy has occurred, but we have no reason to believe that there's any physical ballots missing.
Okay, and just for clarification, the absentee votes or the votes that were mailed in, they were part of this count?
Yes, sir, they were.
Okay.
Before we, go ahead.
Oh, I just want, so, just like yourself and the rest of the board members here, I'm sure everybody's got plenty of questions, over this. So, I just want to say thank you because, the county has come out and, explained the process as to, because I think there's a misunderstanding that MISD is the one that does the election, So to have that clarification that it's the county that runs the election is, it's been very helpful to let people know that we're not in the election business, that, like you explained, the partnership that we enter, for y'all to run the election. And, I just want to say thank you because that clarification, I think, is going to be helpful for the people to understand that how that process actually works, that there's two entities here that actually run this deal, so.
Any other comments, discussion, or questions?
We have no other option before us except to certify.
That's correct. To canvass. which
I'm sorry.
Certify is another word for canvass, but yes. All right, I know each of the board members have before them the order that we're voting on, but let me, for the benefit of the public, read it in its entirety. The order is entitled, Order Canvassing Returns from Recount Conducted on November 22, 2019, and Declaring Results of Bond Election. State of Texas, Midland County, Midland Independent School District. Whereas on November 5, 2019, there was held within and throughout the territory of the Midland Independent School District an election at which there was submitted to the president qualified electors of the district the following proposition. Proposition A. Shall the Board of Trustees of the Midland Independent School District be authorized to issue bonds of the district in one or more series or installments in the amount of $569 million for the construction, acquisition, and equipment of school buildings in the district, including the rehabilitation, renovation, expansion, and improvement thereof, which bonds shall mature, bear interest, and be issued and sold in accordance with law at the time of issuance. And shall the board be authorized to levy and pledge, and cause to be assessed and collected, annual ad valorem taxes on all taxable property in the district sufficient, without limit as to rate or amount, to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds, and the cost of any credit agreements, including credit agreements executed or authorized in anticipation of, in relation to, or in connection with the bonds, all as authorized by the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas and the United States of America, ? Whereas on November 15, 2019, the Board of Trustees of the district approved an order canvassing returns and declaring results of bond election, which we'll refer to hereafter as the original canvassing order. And whereas filing receipt on November 18, 2019 of a valid petition for recount of the votes cast in the election, a recount was set for November 22, 2019. A recount committee was appointed, and notice of approval of the petition and of the recount was provided, all in accordance with the Texas Election Code. And whereas, pursuant to the recount committee's final report, the tabulation of the results of the election is as follows. Votes for Proposition A, 11,411. Votes against Proposition A, 11,400. Now therefore, it is ordered by the Board of Trustees of the Midland Independent School District that Section 1, entitled Approval of Election Results, Original Canvassing Order Declared Void. The declarations, determinations, and findings declared, made and found in the recitals to this order are adopted, restated, and made a part of the operative provisions hereof. The results of the election set forth in the final report of the recount committee dated November 22, 2019, and set forth in the recitals to this order are hereby approved and adopted. The original canvassing order is declared void. The election was duly called, notice thereof was given in accordance with, and the election was held in the manner required by law. Only resident, qualified electors of the district voted at the election. A written return of the election results was made to the district. Upon receipt of a valid petition for recount, the votes cast in the election were duly and properly recounted in accordance with the election code. And the final report of the recount committee has been approved and adopted by the board. Accordingly, the board hereby finds and determines that a majority of the resident qualified electors of the district voting in the election, including absentee voting, voted for Proposition A. Section 2, entitled Tabulation of Votes. The official return shall be delivered to the Secretary of the Board of Trustees, who is hereby directed to enter in the election register the tabulation of the votes cast for and against the proposition, and to preserve such tabulations as required by law. Section 3, entitled Notice of Meeting. The Board of Trustees officially finds, determines, and recites and declares that written notice of the date, hour, place, and subject of the meeting at which this order is adopted was posted on a bulletin board located at a place convenient to the public at the district's administrative offices for at least 72 hours preceding the scheduled time of the meeting. That a telephonic or telegraphic notice of such meeting was given to all news media who have consented to pay any and all expenses incurred by the district in connection with providing such notice, both as required by Chapter 551, the Texas Government Code, and that such meeting was open to the public as required by law at all times during which this order and the subject matter thereof was discussed, considered, and formally acted upon. Section 4, entitled Authorization to Execute. The President or Vice President of the Board of Trustees is authorized to execute, and the Secretary of the Board of Trustees is authorized to attest and seal this order on behalf of the Board of Trustees. Section 5, entitled Effective Date. This order is effective immediately upon its passage and approval. It's dated November 26, 2019.
I have every confidence that Midland County will find out the whys of the discrepancies, but it still gives me pause to vote yes, but I see no other option, legally or otherwise. So.
Any other comments or discussion before we call for the vote?
Well, it must be noted, John, that the oath we took to abide by
Yes,
the
sir.
laws of
No,
the state
I understand.
locks us in.
Yes, sir.
Are we ready? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, it is now 12:40 p.m. and we will adjourn our November 26, 2019 meeting. Thank you all.
That's good.